What's a habit you picked up during quarantine that you still maintain? Story 1. So this is pretty lame, but for most of my life, starting in probably middle school, I always carried my wallet in my right-hand back pocket. I was so used to sitting on it that it became almost comforting. Didn't really need my wallet for months on end during COVID and was probably wearing sweats with no back pocket when I did need it. I can't stand having my wallet in my back pocket now, so I'm a front pocket wallet guy now. Story 2. I'm sure I'm not the only one, but my work-life balance was forcefully reprioritized in the best way, and I don't think I'll ever give an actual about a job or money ever again. I mean, I care to the extent that I want to try and do good work, and obviously I care about money to the extent that my bills need paid, but I realize there are plenty of jobs out there and plenty of time to advance my career. I only have one family, though, and my kids are kids for a very finite amount of time. I'll never again skip a family outing for an extra shift nor stay late because this really needs done. Nah, man, it's 5 p.m. and that can be tomorrow's problem. I'm late for home. Story 3. I've been journaling for 20 years as of last May, and of all the habits and quirks I've picked up over the years, that one is by far the most positive. It helps me to organize all of my thoughts and analyze why I'm feeling the way I am. I like to read and reread my entries until I've articulated what I'm feeling and why I'm feeling it. I've always journaled on the computer, starting first with a website and then transitioning to journaling software that exports the files as RTF documents. I started journaling a couple weeks before high school graduation, and now I'm nearly 40. I have this very detailed, very granular personal history for all that time. It's incredibly interesting to go back and read what I was thinking on this day 15 years ago and to notice the changes in myself as I've grown and matured. Honestly, it's so ingrained in me that it's a pleasure to write. Story 4. Running errands for my mom. She'll say, "I'm going to place, do you want to come?" But when we get there, she just hands me her shopping list and says, "See you soon." She only gets out of the car at Knit World because she doesn't trust me to get the right wool. Story 5. I teach math. I used to teach from the dry erase board. Zoom teaching was at home at my desk with a drawing tablet. I would screen share a PDF, then write on it. I still use it and will never go back. I'll get up to the board for some explanations though, this and hand washing for sure. Story 6. I was a bit late to discover all the things my smartphone could do. During the pandemic, I was mentally unwell, Nuff said, and I was on my phone for days on end, searching for games and payday loans and other crap. I came across Duolingo, and as I had always wanted to learn French, I started and got my daily dopamine hits. I got up to 664 days, past my illness too, but then took about 10 months of casual learning before picking up the daily streak again, and now I am 347 days on my second stemp at a lengthy streak, and I'm starting a diploma of modern languages, French, in 2.5 weeks. Story 7. Eating breakfast. When I had to go to the office every day, I spent so much time getting ready and commuting that I never had breakfast. Now that I'm 90% WFH, I have breakfast almost every day. For lunch, I just have a light snack and/or a tall beverage. I feel so much better and have been able to cut out between meal snacks entirely, whereas before I tended to hit the junk food vending machines at work around 3 p.m. Story 8. I've become a low-key prepper. No, I didn't hoard toilet paper or anything else for that matter. It's actually helped me save money in the long run. And we now have plenty of food stocked up. This has helped some of my anxiety if times are lean, that we won't go hungry. Story 9. Not eating at restaurants. If we want food from somewhere, we just get to go from everywhere now. One of the best things to come out of lockdown is almost every place has delivery or takeout now, even in my tiny little town. I much prefer fine dining when I can do in my pajamas watching Netflix, LOL. Story 10. Not quarantine exclusively as I was an essential worker, LOL, but I stay home when I'm sick now. I used to pride myself on going to work sick unless I was vomiting or otherwise physically unable to go. I used to brag about how I had never called off and had only been forced to leave or sent home sick by a superior. I thought it showed something about my character, and now I cringe thinking about that. That time period definitely changed my perspective on that. Not just owing myself care and rest, but also owing that respect to my colleagues. Story 11. Reading an absolutely insane number of books for fun. I was such a bookworm as a kid, but grad school killed it. The last thing I ever wanted to do in my free time was read for fun. But with COVID and nowhere to go, and the library doing curbside service, I got back into it in a major way and never stopped. My husband just accepts now that when he comes to bed, his side will be covered in books that I fell asleep reading, and he needs to move them before he climbs in. Story 12. During quarantine, I finally managed to break the habit of washing my hair every day. It's terrible for it. Now I wash every other day and just use dry shampoo on the non-hair wash day, because it still gets oily super fast, sadly. After quarantine, I started going out all the time, really all the freaking time. I try to stay in once a week, but the other 6 days I'm going out doing something, socializing, trying a new activity, or visiting a new spot or seeing a concert. I suddenly got hit with the worst case of YOLO you ever did see, and it shows no sign of abating. I just can't get enough of the world ever since we got it back. Story 13. I still mask everywhere, and because I deal with the public, I keep a bottle of hand sanitizer at work. Every time anyone hands me something, once I put it down, I sanitize my hands. I've had a transplant. I'm immunocompromised. I still need to be able to work, though, so this is my way of life from now on, I guess. I don't really go out to eat unless it's outdoors and limit my social interactions. It sucks. But with society and even medical experts just abandoning all precaution or prophylactics because they're unpopular, this is how it has to be now. However, I haven't had COVID yet. Knock on wood. Story 14. Jesus. So many. Almost daily naps. WFH. Looking homeless more often than not, having gloves in my car and never pumping gas with them, sanitize my hands once I get in the car from being anywhere. Reading. I probably read 2 books a year for the last decade, started in 2020, and now read 100 plus books a year. I now miss my cat if I'm gone for even 3-4 hours. Not afraid to wear a mask in public and have people thinking I'm diseased. Story 15. Sleeping naked. It's a game changer. I have been inconvenienced once or twice since people started moving around again, but I have no regrets. Like, I live here 7 days a week. Knock before you open the bedroom door in my house, please. I do the same for you. Story 16. Grocery delivery. Oh, and now I have an indoor garden of houseplants. During quarantine, I signed up for one of those monthly subscription boxes, but with houseplants. It was fun learning how to care for them and collecting cool-looking specimens. 40-plus plants later, my house and heart is full of them. Story 17. Also wear a mask if out most of the time. Touch wood, no COVID for me or my husband. Had friends the same. Then they went on a cruise, which, as we all know, is like a COVID-infested area. Both got COVID, one with complications. I'm never going on a cruise again. Story 18. Paying way more attention to social distancing. Especially if I spot anyone with a possible contagious illness around me, I make sure I avoid that person or put way more distance between us. I wouldn't really care about it before COVID, and it kind of works as I barely get sick during winter now. Story 19. Not forcing myself to go out, be social, when I don't want to. I used to think I was an extrovert, but COVID showed me that I am happier alone with family. Being stuck inside for 2 years actually made me happier than I had been in years. I think I was only ever being social because of momentum and expectations. I wasn't actually enjoying it. Story 20. I picked up the habit of regular mindfulness meditation. It started as a way to manage stress and anxiety during such an uncertain time, and now it's become a daily practice that helps me stay grounded and focused. Even just 10-15 minutes a day makes a big difference in how I approach tasks and challenges. It's one of the more positive routines I've kept. Story 21. I got rid of all my regular social medias. Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, never had Twitter. I used to be addicted to them, and they were just awful cesspools of depression, so I got rid of them. Now, I use Reddit to talk to people about things I love and topics I enjoy, and I use Discord to connect with my gaming group. That's it, and it's more than enough. I'm way happier now without the constant onslaught of awful boomer news memes, toxic misinformation, and nonstop arguing and depressing news. I keep my Reddit to lighthearted stuff for the most part. I'm a part of crafting groups, gaming groups, and a few fun general groups like Our Cats or Our Madeem Smile. Oh, or the one where you guess what people's cookie cutters are. Stuff like that. The only drama I see on here are from Aita or our relationship advice. But that stuff doesn't bother me, and I like answering questions or giving advice. Best decision I ever made. 10/10 would do again. Story 22. I cut down on drinking by a lot. I was falling into the quarantine day drinking a lot of other people were doing, thinking it was harmless and funny. I was having a morning White Claw when I got a text saying my cousin was rushed to the hospital after vomiting blood. Nobody knew he was struggling with alcoholism. He's doing a lot better now. I threw out my drink and have one. 2 drinks like 1-3x a month now. Story 23. Exercising. When everything was closed, you really had no options for fun. Like, yeah, the to-go alcoholic drinks were fun, but that gets old fast. Seemed like all I could do for any sort of exciting activity was go for runs or walks outside in nature. And I also bought some bells and a mat to do exercises at home. Had to do something to keep from going crazy. Of course, now I go to a gym, but I really never exercised much before quarantine. Story 24. Journaling. I actually started in January of 2020. Then the pandemic hit and I kept it up this whole time. I tried journaling on paper in the past, but it never stuck. Now I use an app and it's been brilliant. It's wild to look back and see what I was doing nearly 5 years ago, and tracking my mental health has been very beneficial. Story 25. Home workouts on YouTube. I actually canceled my gym membership a little over a year ago because I just enjoy working out at home now. With just a few different sizes of bells, I can get the same satisfaction exercising at home that I do at the gym. Bonus, because I can stay in my pajamas depending on the workout, LOL. I can do dance cardio, Pilates, leg day, etc. Just whatever I feel like that day. YouTube is such a great resource if you want free exercise routines. It's probably not for everyone, but especially now with a 4-month-old baby, it's been my saving grace. Story 26. Learning about boats, since I now live near an ocean shoreline. Watching sumo wrestling, and reading about sumo, and watching YouTube vids about sumo, and keeping up on the latest sumo drama. And there's way more drama than you would think. Not the Real Housewives of Sumo level drama, but the reserved and polite Japanese level drama. Learning web development and building websites. So yeah, the post-COVID lockdown period has been pretty busy. Oh, and I learned all about surgical techniques for removing brain tumors, but that was more by necessity than choice. Catching COVID after that was kind of like Japanese-level drama by comparison. Story 27. Masking at work. I work at an urgent care, so I get exposed to sick people frequently. Before COVID, we didn't mask at all, but now I wear my mask every day, and it's significantly cut down the amount of colds I get per year. And nobody questions my masking, either, like they would if I worked in a different environment, so that's nice. Story 29. Wearing a mask when I have to go out in public when I'm sick. I get some weird looks now and then, but I'm keeping my germs to myself, thanks. I'd heard it was standard practice in some countries even before COVID, and I wish it would catch on here. So tired of coworkers getting all up in my face to talk about how they're definitely coming down with something and should probably be home. Story 30. My weekly doctor's appointment moved to a phone call instead of F2F. I hated calls and used to get crippling anxiety over them. Having the regular practice really helped me get used to it and learn to deal with it, so I stuck with it. It's also a lot less hassle than having to get a lift as I can't drive. I can make and receive phone calls now without getting in a big stress. I don't like it, but I don't have to. I can get it done without it disrupting my life, and I'm really happy about that. Story 31. I cut down on socializing, and I've never been happier. I'm very choosy with whom I spend my time and energy with after having to perform on Zoom for all those happy hours with coworkers and neighbors. Almost all of my friends and family went back to packing their schedules full as soon as they could, and it was sad to see them get all stressed out and too busy to continue the art or love of reading they had discovered during the pandemic. Story 32. I loved my time during the quarantine. Not that I liked it was such an epidemic. I was an extroverted person, and it was so easy to make friends, and I loved meeting people. But now I've become a homebody, don't like outings, love doing nothing at home and just lounge with my dogs. Now because of that, I'm finding it hard to get adjusted to work. After my college was over, I was at home for a whole year, so I got so comfortable living that way. Now that I have a job, it's been 3 months, I find it difficult being outside of my home for such a long stretch, 12 hours. I'm also pursuing my master's, but I can't give it as much attention as it needs. I had mental breakdowns every day for 2 months, and it was exhausting. It still is, which is making me want to go for a remote job. What I mean is, I don't want to leave my home. Story 33. Honestly, I want to be home all the time now. When the lockdown started, I was 19. I was a year-ish into college, constantly going out with friends, etc. Then the lockdown happened, and holy did I realize how much I love my couch, bed, TV, etc. I was able to really teach myself how to cook, which has been great. To this day, I hate leaving my house. I love my house, huh? I went from a social butterfly to less social. I maybe go out with friends once or twice a month. I just like being home. It helps that my girlfriend and I live together, been together 7 years, so I always have my favorite person and best friend around, haha. If I could find a stay-at-home job that paid well, I would do that. So basically, quarantine turned me into the world's biggest homebody to ever exist, LOL. Story 34. I'm more of an inside kid now. I'll go out once in a while, but I used to drink 3-5 nights a week and could not miss out on anything. Now I'm very content going home and cooking and relaxing. My social battery is fully changed. I also am less worried about my appearance. I'd rather be comfortable and not spend out the ass on makeup and whatnot, which I'm now realizing caking the makeup on was aging me anyway, lol. Story 35. Because I was worried about getting COVID, I spent some time trying to break my lifelong habit of absent-mindedly touching my face and resting my fingertips on my lips and front teeth. I wore this clear nail polish that tastes absolutely revolting that was made for the purpose of helping people stop biting their nails. After a couple of months, I had completely stopped and it somehow stuck. I get sick a lot less now. Story 36. I no longer chew gum on the streetcar or subway. It seemed wrong during the pandemic to be chewing vigorously and blowing bubbles, sending the gum out like a web to collect any nasty microbes that might be floating around, before being sucked back into my mouth for another huge bubble. Also, I didn't want to spread any of my aerosols that might be involved in the process of chewing gum and bubbles. Story 37. I haven't worn a bra regularly since the apocalypse. I simply don't care. Make me. Good luck. I'll risk stepping on my giant old lady breasts versus stuffing myself into what passes as the utility scaffolding they construct for ladies of my busty size. Like Tyler Perry said, braless and lawless. Story 38. I keep backup toilet paper in my house. I basically always have a 3+ month supply, never going back to the early days of quarantine when I was wiping with paper towels, which aren't flushable, so I had to put in a plastic bag and dispose of and taking showers for 2 weeks. Story 39. Not sure if this is a habit, however. Very early in the lockdowns, I deleted my Facebook account, mostly to get rid of TBE cumbersome friends list, which was a lot of dead wood. Plus, I had used FB for a lot of trauma/drama dumping, and I needed to move on to get over it all, etc. Yes, I have gone back to FB, but my friends list is carefully curated, less than 10 people. I'm in a better mental emotional position. I've set it up so I can only L9G in when I am PN my home PC. Now, I wish I could do the same for all social media, particularly Reddit. Story 40. I hold my breath and don't realize it. Wearing all that gear working in LTC, our masks would be soaked in sweat, and we only had one mask per shift due to supplies. I don't realize that I'm holding my breath till something feels off, and I start to breathe again. Story 41. I am not nearly as self-conscious being seen without makeup, especially in front of people I know personally, as I used to be. I wear far less makeup on a daily basis, but still have fun with it OFC. And now that I'm not as self-conscious overall, I also dress way bolder and different than 2020 me. Story 42. Wearing a face mask, especially if I'm ill, but I wear one indoors anyway if I'm in public around a lot of people. COVID still exists. It still can be contagious if you're asymptomatic, and it can still leave you seriously ill, permanently disabled, or dead. I don't think people like it much when I say that LOL, so I tend to keep my reasons to myself. But the fact that you don't want to think about COVID anymore doesn't make it go away. The other reason I still mask is that almost everyone at uni so far has caught freshers flu, and I'm constantly in rooms with people coughing all over. I haven't caught it yet. Yippee. Story 43. Quarantine had literally no effect on my daily life or my family. The only thing that sucked is my daughter's college graduation wasn't held. Worked her ass off for 3 degrees and we had to celebrate at home. Other than that, we could shop easily, get toilet paper easily too. Bulk paper that I ordered for cheap from the company I ordered janitorial supplies, and I shared with the neighbors too. We didn't lose a day of work because we are essential workers. We didn't vaccinate. We invited people over frequently. We went to others' homes frequently. And not one Karen complained about how our socialization habits hadn't changed one iota, because where I live, nobody was interested in compliance. There were no new habits picked up. Story 44. Being sober. My last drink was on January 23rd, 2020. It was hard the first couple months, then on April 1st I almost died when an unknown brain tumor exploded, aneurysmed, and hemorrhaged in my brain. I had to learn how to walk and talk again after my coma, and after that being sober has been pretty easy. Story 45. Quarantine brought a lot of things to the surface for me. Looking back, it was somehow a bit of a blessing. I was a functioning alcoholic before the pandemic hit, but when everything shut down, I actually almost drank myself to death. Getting that out of my system, so to speak, feels like I was truly given a second chance at life, and I will never take it for granted again. I guess that's the short answer. I don't take anything for granted anymore. I also met my wife during the pandemic, so that's a huge bonus there too, LOL. Story 46. Getting groceries once a week. I never had them home delivered because that's costly and I live right next to a shop, but I'd often use the pickup option. I still use it occasionally now, but in any case, I still try to only go once a week. It helps meal plan and minimizes impulse snacks. Story 47. I started gardening and went to a small market garden. Now we have a 9-acre farm with pigs and chickens. We just wanted to try and be a little more self-sufficient and turned out to really enjoy it. Oh, and a backstock supply toilet paper. Story 48. I work in healthcare, so it's still normal for me mask up every day. I'm only one of a few that still does. But I feel weird walking in the hospital with my face showing. The downside is, the last time I was sick was June 2022 when I had COVID, which I got at home. I look at my friends and family who got the flu cold over the last 2 years, and I'm ashamed to admit that I kind of sort of envious. Oh well, I also want to stay home being sick. Story 49. I've gotten in the habit of using my phone to pay for things rather than swiping my debit or credit card. Yeah, you bypass germs of touching the machine, but I had no idea there was extra protection from the bank. They only providing a one-time approval for the charge, making it very difficult for your card to be compromised. Story 50. Talking to myself out loud at home turned into talking to myself out loud in public. I feel like Moses parting the Red Sea when I'm at the grocery store waiting for a family of 5 who are taking 20 minutes to decide which package of hamburger is the perfect one. Family of 5. Amber, I told you we need burger that is 73/25. Keep looking. Me. And so I told Jerry that if his Dreamweaver situation gets out of control again, he can just use a solution of orange juice and olive oil to sterilize the giant spiders so they can't reproduce. Story 51. This is embarrassing, but skincare. I grew up in an interesting family where face wash and sunscreen were considered toxic, and people who used them were considered vain and shallow. I went on to become a scientist and obviously learned how wrong all that was. However, if self-care is not something you grow up with, it's a hard thing to add to your life. I picked up a decent but very simple skincare routine during the pandemic, although I did not get to work remotely due to being a scientist, and somehow stuck with it. Story 52. I have no qualms with telling people no, I don't want to when I get invited somewhere. I care less about what people think and more what I think. We will go out maybe once a month but order in 2x a week, but before we'd always go out. Our food budget has increased, and I would say that's in addition to grocery inflation. I'd say my husband and I have more and I masturbate more. I bought a ton of toys with the additional income from a new job and went overboard. I take less sick days with a hybrid workplace. Having depression, I might not get out of bed until 1 p.m., but then I'll get a whole day's worth of work done. Not really related to the pandemic, but I finished college the year before and I was a huge reader before college, so I just went from being overwhelmed with school to all this time to read. Story 53. I started dabbling into some witchcraft. Nothing hocus pocus, but like actual natural cures, forgotten skills, identifying edible plants, etc. How to grow food and raise small-scale livestock. How to cook wild game like rabbit. Now I have a semi-popular side gig making whipped tallow balm and soaps, and my rabbit stew is pretty amazing if I do say so myself. Story 54. Watching reaction videos to movies and shows, and playthroughs of games. My favorite thing is to watch a movie I love with someone who's never seen it. During COVID, I had just moved to a new state and was laid off. I was paid lots of money to stay home, but I literally didn't know anyone, and this sort of filled that void. Story 55, I spent a lot of time on Reddit. Not really a habit, but I learned to clean as I was cooking from Reddit. I never had a problem cleaning afterwards, but it's just so much more convenient / easier to clean as you go, done with a spatula and waiting for something to brown in a frying pan. Pour that dishwater and clean that spatula, etc. Story 56, cooking most sauces from scratch, walking 4-6 miles a day, practicing Qigong, Buddhism, mindfulness, not vaping, no alcohol, an occasional weed gummy instead of wine, choosing friends who are positive and make me feel at ease when I'm around them, listening to my body in all situations, creating boundaries that are kind yet firm, going to bed early and rising early, drinking tea, stretching my body, slowing down, pausing for a long time before saying the thing or reacting. This may be the biggest. Not expressing my opinion every time I have the urge, but instead trying to listen more and letting the other person be right even if I think they are wrong. Eating less meat. Continually redirecting my thoughts away from worries and into the present. This gets easier. Sitting in a chair and looking out the window instead of scrolling. Story 58. Walking several miles a day. Hot girl walks were a trend during COVID, and it helped me deal with being cooped up. Now I walk whenever I can. Also reading, which has led me to joining book clubs and meeting great people. Eventually joined some walking groups too post-COVID. I know many people become introverted, but I took my introverted activities and somehow made them social. The thing is, I wasn't very social before COVID, so this gave me the push to change things and make new friends. I also decided to move 1,000 miles away during COVID and made a fresh start. Story 59. Not drinking alcohol. I realized although I was only a social drinker, I wasn't able to manage it, and I'd either have to stop at one drink, or I'd try and drink to get intoxicated and be embarrassing, or get sick. Since I wasn't being social, I thought about my relationship with alcohol and cut back with social drinking, and now I just don't drink at all. Another thing is carrying hand sanitizer. I didn't before all the time, but now I always have some. Story 61, walking. My partner and I started walking because we were trapped in the house all day and just wanted to get outside. We got to a point where we would just walk for an hour. Given our pace, this ended up being around 3 miles, so we decided to just make that the goal. For the last 4 years, we now make it a point to walk any day we don't go to the gym. This usually ends up being 4 days a week. It has become so routine that we don't feel right if we don't do it. Story 62, habit tracking. I was in my first year of college when COVID started, so I started it to make sure I did my schoolwork outside of class time, and now I use it for everything I need, like reading, chores, hobbies, etc. 30 minutes a day, I color in that days box. Story 63, being hella low, maintenance and dressing undeniably comfy. I'm still put together, but just enough to look normal. No makeup, jeans and t-shirts, messy bun. I used to wake up and put a full face of makeup on, glue on eyelashes, and now I just wash my face and moisturize unless there's something special going on. It gives me peace I didn't know I needed and self-love I didn't have before. Story 64. Zoom family dinners, almost every week. I live 2 time zones away from my parents and sister, and once a week I get to have dinner with them. We did it to celebrate my dad's birthday in April 2020, and then realized we could do it every week. I stay so much more caught up on their lives than when we were just making time to call each other periodically. Story 65. I got into the habit of unapologetically saying no to outings. Pandemic somehow turned out to be the best time for me. Introvert here. My productivity shot up because I was less anxious and could work from home and really focus. Again, this is me coming from a place of privilege as I'm a single household, no kids. But it taught me where I thrive. Made a career pivot too. The pressure to socialize got lifted off, and I had never felt this way before. Story 66. Feeling like it's wrong to go to work when you can't stop coughing. It used to be that going to work when you were sick was like a status symbol. You were such a hard worker and so dedicated, etc. Older people especially tended to think you needed to work even when you were sick. During COVID, I was working with a guy who was approximately 62, and his disabled mother lived at home with him. Someone came to work after testing positive, and he flipped out. If he got sick, he'd likely pass out to his mother, who would probably die. Coming to work with something as contagious as a respiratory disease doesn't make you seem dedicated. You are not only putting the health of all your coworkers at risk, but you are putting the health of all their families at risk too. It's not okay. Stay home. Story 67, big time this. I was always the yes guy. Since COVID, though, I had to be more explicit over message, which is my strong suit. COVID brought to my role a new level of micromanagement. I've always done my role great with no pressure. But COVID had my management team worried. My 3 supervisors were all on my side. A new tool was set in place that I had to place myself in a state of work. 2024 here. I'm still fighting this new level of micromanagement. I was in my role for 6 years prior to COVID and had been given Employee of the Year for 3. But this new WFH structure is getting close to ruining my role and wanting to move on. The lack of visibility in work for management is what I think quarantine ruined, at least for people who went from full-time on-site to full-time remote. Even the productivity and every other stat didn't change. They can't literally see your work, and they hate that. Story 68, washing my hands more. I work in a school in Sweden, and we were manic about washing our hands because many of our schools were open through the whole pandemic. I have some colleagues who got COVID and are still having issues from it. Heck, some even died. That's why I wash my hands thoroughly from now on. Story 69, reading and audiobooks. Well, I used to read a lot when I was younger, but I lost the habit along the way. I picked it up again during quarantine and tried audiobooks for the first time. It's been a lifesaver. Even in my busy schedule now, I can go through books much faster with the help of audiobooks. Also, I became disillusioned with a lot of things. For example, celebs, luxury, and privilege in general. Story 70. This one's a little sad, a little nice. My Dungeons & Dragons group used to meet in person every week, and that was pretty much my only social interaction. I'm talking pre-COVID. But with COVID, we had to switch to playing online, tabletop simulator. A good thing about that was that friends from further away could join the group, but that also meant after COVID, they were part of the group. So online has to be the only way to play from here on out. Still great, and more people involved. But now I don't really see people very much. Story 71. During quarantine, I developed a habit of exploring the art of journaling, not just writing about my day, but creating themed entries. I dedicate each entry to different topics like things I'm grateful for or quotes that inspire me. This practice not only helped me reflect on my thoughts, but also turned journaling into a creative outlet. I still maintain this habit, and it's fascinating to see how my perspectives and inspirations evolve over time. Plus, it's like a time capsule of my growth. Have you tried anything similar? Story 72. Working from home rather than office most days. Working fewer hours. The company can, and will, replace me in an instant, but I can never get my children or sanity back. Taking the day off as soon as I feel sick or fatigued, rather than plowing through. Taking the day off if I can't concentrate on a damn thing, and trying again tomorrow. Thinking mental health before incompetence or poor work ethic if a colleague suddenly starts underperforming. More comfortable clothes at industry conferences. Gone are the days of my polyester skirt, suit, and heels. There was never a point to those. Cozy business casual and boots now. Getting outside with the kids if we're going stir crazy, even if it's just a walk to places we've been before. Story 73. Taking the time to really cook, calmly, enjoying the process. Before all that, I always had the excuse that I was too busy to prepare elaborate meals, so I would eat the quickest and simplest thing I could, or order takeout. But being home all the time, cooking became a sort of refuge. I would put on music, take my time chopping the ingredients, try new recipes, and I even started baking my own bread. It was almost therapeutic. Story 74, having crazy OCD with surfaces. I have to clean everything with a sanitizing wipe to get rid of the germs. If something is clean, I don't touch it without washing my hands and wiping with a clean tissue. I don't touch the tap, light switches, or door. I come back and turn them off, except the tap of C. So if I have to dry clothes, for example, I open the lid and turn the switch off. Then I sanitize the entire rack, wash my hands, dry the clothes without letting them touch my body or anything touched by anyone else, and then turn off bathroom kitchen lights and shutting the door. This was with everything. My partner has never, not once, sanitized his phone in his life, mostly doesn't wash his hands with soap after using the loo, never washes his hands when home, wears the same clothes for multiple days, though he does shower every day. The list goes on. We drive each other crazy, and I hate this neurodivergent way of thinking that I now have. IDK if I'll ever be the same. Story 75. This is indirectly related to the quarantine, more from a relationship that died thanks to quarantine. But I learned to stand up for myself, have self-respect, and not let people walk over me. Long story short, lockdown meant that my then BF could avoid me until he needed something from me. I kept trying to hold on to the relationship and tried so hard to make it work, so he would come back, to the point where he was able to make use of me. So indirectly, I have quarantine to thank for this. Story 76. I can't wear jeans anymore. They're so uncomfortable, rigid, and the button just presses into my belly button when I sit down. Even if they're the right size, my weight fluctuates during the month and they always feel terrible. I'm almost exclusively wearing anything that's elastic, whether it's a skirt, dress, wide leg, flowy pants, or just literally anything without a button, LOL. Jeans suck, and I can't anymore. All of COVID. I was in sweatpants, and I want that sense of comfort always now. Story 77. Eating only when I'm hungry, not when the clock tells me it's breakfast/lunch/dinner. Also to stop eating when I'm full, and not finish my plate regardless or eat up front, because I know I'll be in meetings stressed and not able to eat properly. Was making me sick without me noticing it before. My eating habits improved 100% during quarantine just by calming down and awareness. Story 78. I started making my bed every morning. Turns out, a neatly made bed is like the adult version of putting on a superhero cape. It's small, but it sets the tone for the day and makes me feel like I've achieved something before breakfast. Who knew being a responsible adult was just about folding sheets? Story 79. As others have said, I wash my hands a lot more and I sanitize after going into stores or getting gas without fail. Another ritual I don't want to give up is relaxing in the morning. During the pandemic, it was the first time as an adult that I had nowhere to be. I started getting up and making a cup of coffee. I would sit and enjoy it on my couch for a long time. It was before my younger one woke up and so quiet. I would also read a book. I now get up half an hour earlier than I need to so I can do my pandemic coffee routine. Story 80. This question really hit me. I'm not sure, honestly. I have a different experience. Quarantine, COVID wasn't any different with me. Yeah, I had to mask and social distance, but nothing during that time stayed. I didn't get to work from home or be on lockdown. Even when they did, I still used my employer ID letter to excuse me. I work at a hospital, so my day-to-day schedule of when I woke up and prepared and when I came home from work was normal. Loved the commute, though. Had family in both possibly the worst places. NYC and Miami, and I was in both places during the highest and worst times. Very surreal. I flew, traveled to different states, had rentals and stayed at hotels, and everything as normal as possible. Story 81. I picked up regular baking during COVID. I'd done a little before, but now I had the time to really lean into it. Post-pandemic, I continue to bake something every week. Bread, cakes, pies, puddings, and pastry. I came to realize I only needed a few techniques and to be able to follow instructions, and I could make delicious things that gave me a great deal of satisfaction. To myself and my family were pleasantly surprised. Story 82, solo walking. Started walking all by myself at the start of the pandemic, just to exercise and get out of the house. Did 2 to 4 miles at a time. Now I walk 2+ hours every day. I'm retired from 6 to 9 miles. Helps me think. I listen to audiobooks and I'm in the best shape of my life at 71. Story 83. Not caring about my hair and makeup. Makeup used to be daily. Now I'll go weeks without. I basically only wear athleisure, WFH life. Salons were closed, so I learned how to do my own dip manicures. I find the process meditative and now never need to go to a nail salon again. Saved me at least $850 a year. Story 84. I noticed the other day, I don't shake hands with anyone I'm meeting for the first time anymore. Has happened maybe twice this past year. Nobody really offers to shake hands either. I kind of like it because it's now just a nod and a nice to meet you rather than touching someone's clammy, sweaty hands. Story 85. I keep an additional 12 rolls of toilet paper on hand. Don't let my pantry get low on staples. I bought a chest freezer and buy proteins when on sale. Before quarantine, it never bothered me to go low or even run out of something because I knew it would be available. Now I get anxious if I get down to 2 of an item. Costco was out of toilet paper today because of the port workers striking. While 2 is made here in the U.S., the raw materials to make come from China. Story 86. COVID is when I decided I was going to stop biting my nails. Occasionally I'll still bite one if I'm anxious and I haven't clipped them in a while. But I usually try to hurry up and get them clipped so I don't continue. For anyone who wants to kick the habit, here's what I did. I clipped my nails every single day. Most days there wasn't much to clip off, but by keeping them short enough that there was nothing to bite, I found that the need to bite them kind of went away. My nail health has improved so much, and having nice nails is now something that's important to me, so it motivates me to keep from regressing into old habits. Story 87. Quarantine was when I started my Duolingo streak. Haha, I'm well over 1,600 days now. Some stretches were definitely a lot more relaxed than others, and I'm not going to say my French is great even after all that, but I can usually get the gist of things when I read it or hear it spoken somewhat slowly. For not having anyone to practice with, I feel like I'm doing pretty well. Story 88. Wearing a mask. Most everyone has ditched or burned their masks, but I was living in a nursing home and rehab facility for 4 years during COVID August 2020 to July 2024, and there were times where my mom would pop in and ask, "Why are you sitting alone in your room with a mask on?" And I had just come in from the hall and hadn't taken it off or completely forgot about it. Last fall, several residents on my hall had tested positive for COVID, and my cousin was having a baby shower and my mom had picked me up so that we could attend. Once I got out of the van, I put my mask on, and my mom was so annoyed. "Why did you just put that on?" Because I'm living in a nursing home where several of my neighbors just tested positive for COVID and I don't want to get my family sick. Oh yeah, true. I only tested positive once in the entire time I was living there and we had several outbreaks. IDK how, considering she hardly ever wore her mask, but my mom has not had COVID once. I'm no longer living in the nursing home, but I do wear a mask when I'm out and about, like grocery shopping. Story 89. Grocery delivery. I do go once or twice a month to specialty herb stores or butchers or bakeries or similar for things I want to handpick though. But grocery delivery, even though ridiculous delivery fees or subscription services have still gone up an obscene amount in 2 years because of how much gas money, time, and impulse purchases it prevents me from wasting, is still less money than doing my own shopping. The convenience and privacy are great and also helps me when I am ill and don't want to share my cold with the world. It has also greatly helped my immunocompromised and disabled associates and friends have more options and ease. Story 90. Using a bidet. It saved a lot of toilet paper and when I travel I miss it. Wearing a mask. I still try to do this when I go shopping and always when I fly. Between masking and WFH, it's reduced my opportunities for getting sick or getting others sick. Perfect? No. Having shared time nightly with my spouse. We watch something each night for about an hour. It might be a K-drama, a British detective show, or a comedy. Now watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine.